7 KCAL rocks. It is your Monday and time to catch up on some sports with our guy, Pep. Pep, what's going on?
Yeah, unfortunately, we are going to check up on some sports and some NFL scores. My team lost, your team lost, and here we're waking up on this Monday morning, and it's unfolding exactly how we thought it would happen, that in the NFC West, the Rams and the Seahawks are now both 8-6, but technically the Rams have beat the Seahawks head-to-head, so the Rams would be the first-place teams out of the NFC West with 3 games to go, and again, Seattle and the Rams will play in the final week of the regular season. Patrick, it's probably going to come down to that final game, but the Rams the Rams beat the 49ers. The Seattle Seahawks lost a tough one against the Packers on Sunday Night Football, and that's what brought us to this.
And then we got to play the Vikings, and Geno Smith got hurt. His knees hurt. Sam Howell came in and played terrible. I mean, I'll give it to Green Bay. We looked like we didn't even belong on the field against Green Bay. They controlled the game completely, not just Geno Smith, who, of course, threw another red zone pick, and I was screaming at the television, but we just did not look good overall. I mean, yes, we made some plays, but it was not happening, man, and I definitely have that sinking feeling. Uh-oh.
Yeah, because if Geno Smith is hurt, obviously Sam Howell, the backup quarterback, was not the answer. He looked like he was uncomfortable and out of place trying to run that offense. And for Seattle, they got Minnesota next. I know Minnesota's playing Monday Night Football tonight. That's a big game for them in terms of that number 1 seed in the NFC. We'll talk about that in a second. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. And the Rams are coming on strong. They're playing their best football of the season. They beat my Niners on Thursday Night Football. It was a low-scoring game, but they found a way to win. And if it comes down to that final game, I got to lean towards the Rams, especially it's in L.A.
And, of course, I already have a friend who's like, come on to the game, Patrick. And I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want to witness that in person if I don't have to.
I know, bring your wife. My wife's like, oh, boy. I'm like, oh.
You're like, that's not going to be a fun experience.
Oh.
So we'll see. 3 games to go. Rams and Seahawks both 8-6, but it does not look good for Seattle as we come down the home stretch with 3 to go. So I don't know. All right, so when you look at the landscape of the NFC as a whole, the Bills beat the Detroit Lions 48-42 and won the marquee matchups over the weekend. Another big game over the weekend was the Eagles and the Steelers. The Eagles won 27-13, so Philadelphia has now won 10 games in a row, which is a franchise record. So right now, the Lions and the Eagles are both 12-2. The Vikings are 11-2. The Vikings play tonight against the Bears, so that's probably a W. So we could have 3 teams at 12-2, Patrick, for that number 1 spot in the NFC.
Yeah, it's quite a battle going on in the NFC. It's really why the NFC West is turning out to be so important for teams like our teams and the Rams, because it's the only way in is to win your division, because every other spot is going to be taken up by these awesome NFC teams that you just talked about.
That's the problem. I mean, parity is awesome. It's fun until it comes back and bites you. And that's what's happening in the NFC West, that, it's even the Rams, as well as they're playing, everyone's kind of been mediocre, beating each other up. And this is the problem now that, what was it, a year or 2 ago? We were talking about maybe 3 or 4 teams out of the NFC West would make the playoffs. Maybe the whole division would at one point. But seriously, only the division champion will get in. And that's why that last game against the Rams and Seahawks is so important in that final week of the regular season. But we got to get to that point first. And right now, that looks like it'll probably be a playoff game to get into the playoffs for Seattle and LA.
The only thing that gives me any positivity is we may be the best at backing into the playoffs like we did against the Saints when we did the old beast mode, beast quake. But because we're the only ones who have some experience at backing in. I remember our record was like 7-9. It was horrible.
I was just going to say, I think you guys were under 500, so it was a 16-game schedule at the time, which would put you like at 7-9 to get into the postseason. So
yeah.
You never know, right? That's why they play the games. Over the AFC, our LA Chargers losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 40-17. And what's bizarre in this game was The second half, Tampa Bay just came to life, like they flipped the switch. They outscored the Lightning Bolts 27-0 after halftime, blew them out. So I did not see that coming, especially this Chargers defense that has been so good at limiting the opponent, but they gave up 40 to the Bucs.
Yeah, we'll give it to the Bucs too. Clearly, either there was a good speech or there was a good adjustment that was made, because Tampa Bay, just like you said, completely different team in the second half. I mean, they came to life. We've seen them show some flashes this year of being decent, and we've known that Baker kind of found a home there in Tampa, but my God, they looked good.
Yeah, last year, getting to the playoffs and winning a playoff game, everyone thought Tampa Bay was going to be one of the better teams in the NFC. They haven't really lived up to the billing, but you're right. I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs, kind of like the Rams. You look at the record, you're like, oh, they're doing okay. They're having a decent season. I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs.
Yeah, those may be the ones you just mentioned right there. Tampa, LA, maybe the most scary teams to play.
Yeah, the NFC is going to be fun, man. Like, I think there's a lot of good football. Of course, when you look at the AFC, everyone points to Kansas City, defending Super Bowl champions, but Buffalo's going to be tough. Baltimore is always brutal in the postseason, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The NFC, even though, let's say the Vikings are 12-2 after tonight's win against the Bears, if they're 12-2, I don't know if anyone's necessarily afraid of the Vikings. Like, could Tampa Bay go into Minnesota and beat the Vikings? I think they could.
I think they could.
Or
too.
The Rams. The Rams could go in there and do the same thing. So
I do.
So, anyways, and speaking of the Vikings and Bears, we got it's not even a doubleheader. It's like two games basically at the same time on Monday Night Football. So you can double up tonight. We got Bears and Vikings at 5, Falcons and the Raiders at 5:30. So two games almost simultaneous.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so don't know why they're at the same exact time or around the same time, but it is what it is. And it's two football games tonight. So there you go, an early Christmas present for all us football fans out there. All right, Patrick, let's talk about the Heisman Trophy ceremony on Saturday. The best two-way player in the game from Colorado, Travis Hunter, is your Heisman Trophy winner this season. Still a lot of backlash on Twitter, a.k.a. X, about Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. Should be, they call him the people's champion, right? The people's Heisman winner, because everyone thought he was more deserving than Travis Hunter. But, Travis Hunter had a great year on offense. One of the best, if not the best defensive back, in the country. So it's hard to argue against Travis Hunter, but I see why, including myself, people wanted Ashton Jeanty from Boise State.
Right. I think because the knock against Ashton, I should say, is that they say he didn't play against great competition. And a lot of the numbers that Travis Hunter got was against not so good a competition. So that's why people are kind of pissing and moaning a little bit. I really wanted Ashton Jeanty to win as well, but I have to admit, because I watched the whole ceremony, just like I did last year with our boy Jaden Daniels, but Travis Hunter does kind of come off like a good kid. He got very emotional when he talked about his father. I had to admit, I thought his speech was very good.
Yeah, he's very likable, right? He's very likable, and he's kind of in the shades of Deion Sanders. Remember, Deion played both ways and returned kicks and could do all that kind of stuff. So Travis Hunter's a special player. He is probably the best player in college football, but Ashton Jeanty, again, was probably, if you look at the public opinion poll, Ashton Jeanty was the people's Heisman champion. So,
right. I mean, when we grew up with Barry Sanders, and anyone threatening Barry Sanders' record that stood for 30 years needs to get some kind of props.
Yeah. Even if it was against, I don't know Boise State's schedule, but it probably, in Wyoming, maybe Utah State was in there. UNLV had a decent team, but San Jose State, he didn't do it against, Ohio State and Michigan and some of these other teams, like let's say Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback for the Oregon Ducks. If you're looking at schedule or tough competition, he probably had the best numbers. So, anyways, depending on what you were looking for, you could find it. And they went with Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
And finally, I don't know if you caught this, Patrick, but on the NBA slate last night, it was Dallas and Golden State. And the Mavericks won 143-133. And the two teams combined for an NBA record 48 made three-pointers in that game. The Warriors had 27. The Mavericks had 21. Do you like this brand of basketball?
I do not. I find it kind of boring for some reason because it doesn't feel like a real game. I feel like I'm just watching an AAU tournament or something. And I mean, NBA ratings are down. Why NFL ratings just keep going up. So it makes me worry that defense is not a part of the game at all. And I think it's hurting the game.
Yeah, I'm a Sacramento Kings fan, and they play zero defense, but my favorite brand of basketball was like Michael Jordan going up against the bad boy Pistons in the 80s and having a game that might be 87-82 the final score, like somewhere in the mid 80s, low 90s. Every basket was going to be a battle. You were going to get punished for it. I miss those days, Patrick.
Yeah, I liked it when Michael Jordan was a good defender. Scottie Pippen was a good defender.
Yes.
Kobe Bryant was a good defender. People forget about that. It makes me wonder, will there be kind of a full circle moment when they kind of realize maybe the game is getting a little ruined here? Will there be a kid who comes up who's a great defender? I'm hoping that will happen.
I hope so, too. I think at some point it will swing back. I think everything does. And I'm just waiting, though. It's like it almost seems like the offense is getting more prolific. It hasn't swung back even a little bit the other way. It just keeps getting farther and farther out with more offense and more offense, which, I don't know. I'm like you. It doesn't seem as fun. It's like, okay, all right, another three, okay. But who's going to come up with the big stop? Who's going to, take the charge? Who's going to, set that big screen and knock someone to the floor and set the tone for the game? I don't know. Right. I miss those days.
Definitely. So it just feels like it's not a real contest, like they're not even trying to play defense. And I think that's what's hurting it.
Yeah. Yeah, get off my lawn, by the way.
Yeah.
I sound like an old guy out here.
That's right, man. That's what I'm talking about. We'll see what happens, though. More records will be shattered. Maybe we'll have a full circle moment. When we talk to our guy Pep on Thursday, we'll have more to talk about. Pep, tell me how to get your stuff.
I'll be back. You can get my stuff anytime, though. In the meantime, at Inland Sports, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, a.k.a. X. We're also on YouTube. You can find us at Inland Sports.
Thanks, Pep.